Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and over the last couple of months, I've been doing my series, The 101 Best Games of All Time. If you haven't seen any of those, you can click the link below to see the most recent one, and there's a playlist of the best board games lists on my YouTube channel. You can see all of them there, but today is the big day. My top 10 games of all time. Can't believe it. Here we go. Number 10 is my favorite deduction game of all time, and it's kind of a recent game. This one is called The Search for Planet X. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. The Search for Planet X is a logic and deduction game for 1 to 4 players where you're trying to have the most points in the end. Each game, you'll be getting some starting information that's different from all the other players. This will help you start to deduce where Planet X might be or might not be. But over the course of the game, you're going to be researching different objects through different sectors to narrow things down. You can also spend a lot of time to target a specific sector to find out exactly what's in it, but only twice per game. You can also research to find out other logic rules that are specific to this game. You'll be able to submit theories, gaining you points, but also giving other players more information. And once you've narrowed it down, it's not just the first player to find Planet X to win, because other players can also try to find it and/or theories to help even the score. There's an expert mode that brings more sectors and more objects with tougher logic, as well as a solo mode against a bot that really makes you feel like you're playing against another player because it actually learns based upon your theories. And the app really helps the game, giving you secret information and making sure you don't get any wrong answers. Yeah, this thing blew my mind. I got to play it the year before it came out at Gen Con, and I got to do the rules video for it, and I fell in love with it. And this game, if you like deduction games like Clue and other spreadsheet style logic games where you have a sheet and you're trying to fill things out, this takes that to the next level, but it also uses an app. And I know the app thing sort of turns some people off, but this game, the reason why it's the best deduction game is a few reasons. Number one, that app is awesome because in many deduction games, if someone gives the wrong answer by accident, it ruins the game completely. That player can't win, the one who got that information, because it's wrong. They got a wrong answer. And it happens more than you'd like in deduction games. The app makes sure that nobody ever gets a wrong answer. Number one, great reason to have that. Number two, this game plays great with 2 players. Not a lot of deduction games play well with 2 players, and the ones that do play a little differently. This plays just like the other ones, and it's just as good. 3, there's a solo game, which if you like to play solo, there's a robot that plays in the app against you, and it feels just like a 2-player game. So this is a game that if you love deduction, you can play with smaller player counts, and it's awesome. In addition to that, it uses this really cool timetable as to who's going to go next, and the better actions you take, you're going to spin yourself out forward. Love that. Also, it's not just about being the first that finds Planet X. You can be the first and still win, but you can also not be the first and still win, because at the end, you still have one last turn to try to get it. Depending how far back you are, you might get just as many points as the player that found it first. So I love that. You don't have to be the first one to get there, but you're all racing towards it. And also, you're learning information from other players throughout the game through those different theories that they're putting out, and that's awesome too, because the information flows really well, but you're incentivized to do it because you're going to be getting points for being the first ones to get correct answers for that. This game's awesome. For all those reasons, that's why this is the best deduction game ever. Search for Planet X. Number 9 is my favorite social deduction game, and it is called Werewords. This version I'm doing here is called Werewords Deluxe. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Werewords is the hidden identity word game for 4 to 10 players, where everything revolves around a magic word for that round. Everyone will be asking the mayor yes or no questions as to what the magic word is, and they'll be given the answers as tokens. The seer also knows the magic word and is trying to guide the team to get it easier. But watch out, because the werewolves are on the prowl, and if they can sniff out who the seer is, the werewolves will win in the end, even if the magic word is guessed. But if the magic word isn't guessed, the village team can try to put an end to it by killing any of the werewolves. The game comes with a free, innovative app that you can download and quickly and easily set up the different roles, change difficulties, and change settings like music and narration. And this deluxe version comes with 7 new roles, so now you can play with up to 20 players. It also has special rules, so you can play with 2 or 3 players. Let's see if you can guess the magic word as the villager team or detract them from it if you're the werewolf team. When I was a kid, I used to play 20 questions with my mom and my family all the time. In the house, while we're driving on road trips, while we're camping, didn't matter. We loved playing that game. We would just play it all the time. This essentially is 20 questions with social deduction, where everyone, one player gets to see what that answer is, and they're trying to answer yes or no questions based upon what other people ask. And players are cooperatively trying to narrow into what this is under a specific time clock. But there's others that are trying not to let you get there. And there's others that know the answer and they're trying to get you there, but they're trying to be subtle about it because they don't want to get caught by the werewolves. This game is amazing because it's so easy to teach. Now again, it has an app like the last game I just mentioned, but it helps run the game. You really need the app. You have all the different words that are in there. It just comes up. It actually knows how to balance the words depending on which roles are in the game and which ones might not be. So you really need the app. So if you're shy away from that, don't with this one. It really is needed to play the game, but it moderates it for you as well. It's just such a simple game. I brought this to so many parties of players that have never seen this style of games before, and they fall in love with it. But you can also play it with gamer games that really get into the meta of what's happened in previous games of this, even previous sessions of this on the different days. It's so fun. There's so many different roles, especially in the deluxe edition, which I highly recommend because it's not that much more expensive than the regular edition. There's way more roles in there. It's so fun to just try to figure this out and figure out who's doing what. And you can also make your own word lists. You can make them at corporate events and make things that have to do with your company. I've done that before. I've made one at our company get-togethers. You can make holiday lists. Plus, there's other word lists out there that other people have made that you can just download on the app and play. It's fantastic. Best social deduction game out there, Werewords Deluxe. Number 8 is a cooperative word-based game called Codenames Duet. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Codenames Duet is a cooperative game where you're trying to place all of these spies out on the board. Each player will be looking at a side of the code and they're trying to get their teammate to guess the ones that are in green. For example, if I wanted them to guess sword and razor on the same round, I might say sharp 2, trying to get them to guess that. If they're correct, we'll get them on the board. If they're incorrect, either the turn will end, or if they selected where one of the assassins are, the game ends immediately. To make things even more interesting, 3 of the clues that you're trying to get your partner to get, you also need to get. They overlap. And for the 3 assassins, one of them is also the assassin for the other player, one of them is a clue the other player needs to get, and one is just an innocent bystander, which would end the round. And there's also a campaign mode where after you defeat the regular base game, you can go off to other countries, which will change the difficulty and the way that you need to play. Now there is the popular Codenames, which is the team versus team version, and I love that version too. And that one came out first, and it won the Spiel des Jahres, the game of the year, and then this one came out after. Now often, when I tell people how much I like this game, a lot of them go, oh, I thought that was just 2-player. And you would guess from the name, Codenames Duet, that it is a 2-player game. True, but it's really 2 teams. And most people miss this about this, and I'm bringing it to your attention that this game is not just a 2-player game. Yes, it's great with 2. It's better than the original, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But it also, you could play teams. You have 4 or 6 people, you have 2 or 3 on each team, it works just as well because if one player doesn't want to give a clue, they don't have to. They have other players that do, and that's the one knock on the original Codenames is it's really hard to come up with good clues, and it's very thinky, not everybody wants to do it. And here, even though you're on a side that you can see the clues, any one of you can give a clue. That's awesome. Also, even when you're playing the Duet 2-player version, if I'm better at giving clues than my partner, I can give a bunch in a row. If I'm experienced, narrowing down the board, giving them less and less, things to have to think about and making it a little bit possibly easier for them. I love that. You don't have to go turn by turn. But this game is so clever, just as much as the original is. You're trying to figure out how to link these words together in the most clever way because you got to link like 3 things together that doesn't seem like they have a lot of things to do with each other. But when you find a way to do it, oh my gosh, and you have that huge high five, there's not a lot of party games, period, that have that experience of overcoming something that's that was super clever. Codenames Duet, it's better than the original because of the reasons I've mentioned, but also because there's a deductive layer of depth here that's not in the original, where 3 of the things, there's 3 assassins now, but one of them is an assassin for the other player, One of them, you know, it's actually a good one you're trying to get for the other player, and one of them is neutral. And so you have that deductive aspect. You also know that 3 of yours on your side are 3 that the other player is trying to get you to guess too. And so as you're getting through and getting down to the nitty gritty, you can look at that, knowing that, and deduce certain things about what's out on the board, and that adds another layer of depth. That's another reason why this is better than the original. Codenames Duet. Number 7 is my favorite economic game. Well, maybe, because the next one's economic as well. But this is a purely economic game, a Euro game called Power Grid. This is a classic. This thing is going to be one of those old Euros that we'll be playing forever. In this game, you are a power company, and you are powering your power plants. You're moving into different cities, and you're trying to build power plants there to power the people there and make money. But that money that you make, you're using to expand your network of power supplies into different cities, but you're also needing to buy not only new power plants, but you're also buying resources to help power those power plants. There's all sorts of different ones that do coal that aren't very efficient, and then you have the oil, and then you have well, it depends which game you get, trash or natural gas, depending on which version of the game you're playing, the newer one or the older one. And then you have nuclear. Then you have some that are just wind, right? And so this game has network building, where you're trying to block other players out of different areas, but that also has the auction, which is like trying to get the good deal, but it also has the mathiness of trying to figure out, I'm running a business and I got to figure out, with this money I just got, what am I going to do next round? I'd like to get a new power plant. I'd like to get enough to run these power plants. I'd like to get twice as much to run the price up high for other players after me. I want to try to build into new cities. You got to think of all this like a turn ahead. Lots of planning, resource management, auction, route building, the beauty of running the business. This game is amazing. My favorite economic Euro game, pure. This is Power Grid. Number 6 is also kind of an economic game, but it's more about area control, negotiation, action selection. This is Lords of Vegas. In this game, you're building up Vegas in, I believe, the 50s and or 60s, and you're buying plots of land, you're building up casinos on there, you're building them up into bigger, you're sprawling out, possibly like moving into the lot next to you that you don't even own, that, hey, later on that might become someone else's lot because you kind of stole it. You might be making your casino big, and you might remodel it to be another casino type, taking over another player's casino. What? Yeah, I'm just going to get this big casino and then rename it what yours is next door, and I'm just going to take you over. This game is cutthroat. You're trying to be on the Las Vegas Strip because, hey, they come up more often. They're going to pay out more often, but they also cost more to get in. This game has tons of negotiation, where you can trade anything with. You can trade land with each other. You can trade, ownership of casinos with each other. You can make deals of, hey, don't go over here, I'll go over here. Hey, let's do this so we can go against this player over here. It's amazing. Lots of different things you're doing. It does feel like Vegas because there is a ton of luck in this game too. There's a lot of dice rolling. You're trying to take over other people's casinos by re-rolling a bunch of dice that's there, trying to take them over, have the highest dice in there. You've got the randomness of some of the cards that come out, that the statistics change over time. There's a lot here. There's a lot to look at, a lot to try to do, a lot of strategy in the game, but it's balanced with the luck of Vegas, which is it's very thematic. So it has a good balance of strategy and luck. The luck might turn some players away, but this game has provided me with some of the most memorable game experiences I've ever had. It's a longer game. It takes about 2 hours to play, but man, is it amazing. I went to a cabin getaway this past summer with a bunch of my friends that we played this for many, many years, and we played all of our favorites, and this one that weekend, everyone's like, that was the best game we played all weekend. I mean, this game's just amazing. Lords of Vegas. Number 5 is one of the most popular games that's from the sort of modern board game era these days. It is Ticket to Ride. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. In Ticket to Ride, you're going to be building railroad routes across the entire United States. At the beginning of the game, you're going to get these secret goals that no one else will know. So you know that you need to go from Seattle to Los Angeles and also Portland to Nashville. And you might be able to make a big train that goes from LA up to Seattle, through Portland, all the way over to Nashville, and have one big long train at the end. And if you get these done at the end of the game, you'll get these points. But if you don't get them done, you'll get minus those points. So this is sort of the focus of the game. Turns are very simple. On your turn, you're either picking up cards, or you'll be playing cards. In this case, 3 pink cards for 3 pink route from city to city. In this case, LA to San Francisco, as I'm starting to build my routes. And you'll be receiving points every time you place trains depending on the amount that you put down. And throughout the game, other players will be placing in certain spots. If I needed to go this way, well, I'm out of luck. Now I'm going to have to get there in a different route or go around in different directions and change plans. Whoever's best and most efficiently able to get their routes done while navigating around all the other players will be the one to win Ticket to Ride. Yeah, you may have noticed the tagline of my channel is breaking down barriers and growing relationships through board games. Because out of all the games on this top 100 list, or 101 games, the joy that I get from playing any of these games doesn't measure to the joy I get by introducing people who don't know this exists and watching their eyes light up and get so excited about games, about just playing them and having fun, but also for what games can be, which is bringing people face to face, breaking down barriers, growing relationships. After you have an experience playing a game with somebody, you may have conversations with them that you weren't comfortable with earlier. Or maybe it would take, I've seen it take people who are from very opposite ends of any perspective and bring them together and have a balance where they can build a relationship upon. This game is on this list this high a lot because, well, it's an awesome game, but it is one that I've used more frequently than any other game. So if someone says, what's the one game I should play? You're into all these board games. What should I play? What should I get? No doubt this is the first thing. Don't even have to think about it. Ticket to Ride. It's amazing. You're building these routes around whatever country map you want to do. The USA one's my favorite because I live here. But you're building routes. You have these cards. Basically, playing a rummy style game where you're collecting cards and you're playing cards. And you're collecting those sets and you're playing them in sets to place routes. And you're placing those routes to get points, but you're also trying to finish a hidden objective. And you're getting blocked by other players and trying to figure out problems of how to get around them. The game is just so streamlined, so fun, so engaging. I have taught this to literally hundreds of people, and I've never seen one person go, this isn't that good, this isn't that fun. Everyone loves it. It is the best of the best. It is the one modern board game I think everybody should have in their collection. It is just amazing. Ticket to Ride. Number 4 is a medium to medium heavy game from my favorite designer, Bruno Cathala. Spoiler, it's not the last game on this list of his. This is called 5 Tribes. This is produced by Days of Wonder. And this game, you play games and you have expectations for games. And the first time I got to play this, it was a big Gen Con release on myself and Z Garcia, who's also a favorite designer, Bruno Cathala. Got into Gen Con, first day, first table, ran to it, and the designer Bruno was teaching the game, and we got to play it with him. And you get a little nervous because you want to like the game, you know everything about it before you get to play it, and you want to like it, but you're not sure. And even after the first play, I'm like, oh my gosh, this game just tickles my brain in the right way. This is a special game. This game's so cool because it uses an old-fashioned game mechanism that's ancient called Mancala, where you're picking up stones and dropping them around in different motions, like clockwise, if you will. And here you're picking up different meeples and dropping them off. But the strategy of picking them up and dropping them off is huge because this is one big, huge puzzle where each of the different colors that you drop off, when you pick up drop off the last one, you're picking up all of the ones of that color on that tile. And you're activating the ability of that specific colored meeple. Like a market, the green one, and you're getting different cards and you're trying to set collect and have a bunch of different ones to have huge points. Or you're using the blue ones to look around and build things and make money off of because money's points. Or maybe you're doing the assassin and killing other players' meeples or killing ones off different tiles because when you clear a tile, you're also getting the ability of that tile too. You're getting the points there. So you're doing 3 things on a turn. You're getting the ability of the meeple, you're getting the ability of the tile, and maybe you're even getting other abilities too. It's just, there's a lot going on here, but the puzzle of this is why it's so great because every game setup's random. And even if you set up the same game the same way every time, even after the first turn, the game's gonna be different. It's just an evolving puzzle, very tactical, which is what am I gonna do right now? It's got some bidding in there where you're trying to bid basically coins, which is points, as to how far in front turn order you want to go, because you might see a great move and you want to spend a lot for it, but how much is it worth to you? Because if you don't get it, someone else might take it, or they might do something enough to screw it up so that you don't get to do it. This game just has so much going on. It's beautiful. It's got that nice Egyptian theme. It's got some expansions out there. But the puzzle of this and the replayability is literally infinite with this. And trying to figure out the evolving puzzle as the game goes on, and the great moves are taken and taken and taken, and it's harder to see good moves, and you're trying to figure out what's the best move available right now, and it's ringing every last point out towards the end. It's tense, fantastic. 5 tribes. This next one, number 3, is my favorite trick-taking game of all time. It's called Skull King. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Skull King is a trick-taking game for 2 to 6 players where there are some normal suits, and those suits range from 1 to 13 in each of the suits. There are trump suits that trump the regular suits. There are special cards like mermaids that trump Trump. There's pirates that trump mermaids. And there's Skull Kings that trump everything. Unless the Skull King comes out, the mermaid can come back and trump it. 4 levels of trump in this game. Match that with a simultaneous bid system where you're bidding how many tricks you take, and you only get positive points if you make your tricks. Or you can decide to bid 0 tricks and go for a huge reward or a very bad penalty if you don't get it. The game plays over 10 rounds. There's 1 card in the first round, up to 10 cards in the 10th round, scaling all in between for an interesting arc to the game. Yeah, that was an older Allegro video of mine, the 1-minute overview of the old version from Europe. The version that you can most get here in North America is from Grandpa Beck's Games, and they've released about 4 different new versions since that video I just showed you, so it looks quite different. They've added expansions and things like that. But this game is fantastic. It's the best trick-taking game for many reasons. It is super tense. It's really hard to make your bid, and it's unforgiving. If you don't make your bid, you're getting minus points. Some people might not like that, and this game's probably not best to teach players trick-taking because of that reason. It's hard, and it's unforgiving, and it's very swingy. And if you're a new player, you might be like, this is just too hard to get my butt kicked. This person has 560 points, I have minus 300. That might happen your first game. But the game is so clever because it uses a lot of the basics of trick-taking, but it has all these different rule breakers that are like layered on top of each other. Like, hey, the pirates beat Trump, but the mermaids beat the pirates, but the Skull King beats this, but if the Skull King comes out, then the mermaid beats. Oh, and by the way, you can, if you don't want to win a trick, you can play the sailboat and get your way out of there. And even the new version has like a coin that you could throw that kind of escapes you out of a trick that you don't want to win, but then you can partner up with another player, and if you both make your bids, you get bonuses. There's all sorts of things. The expansions even add, like, if you win a trick with a pirate, you get a special ability for that pirate. So there's like lots of layers of depth here. Not for beginners for sure, but it is the game and the trick that I've introduced this to so many players that play trick-taking games. And it's hard to find one that also doesn't agree this is their favorite. It's based off of Wizard, which is an older one, which I think that was even based off something else as well. So it has sort of a pedigree there, but they've taken it to a different level. If you like trick-taking games and you don't mind ones that have maybe a little bit more things going on than others, it'll pay off because this game's unbelievable. Skull King. My number 2, I mentioned there's going to be another Bruno Cathala game on this list. This is the highest one for me, Mr. Jack in New York. Now there's 4 games in the Mr. Jack series. There's the original Mr. Jack, there's Mr. Jack Pocket, which was also on this list previously. There's Phantom of the Opera, and then there's Mr. Jack in New York. This is by far my favorite. It's not even a close one. But it is also the hardest one to get into, and it's the hardest one to understand, and there's the most going on. So this isn't definitely one that I would recommend for a player that's new in the Mr. Jack universe. Mr. Jack essentially is a 2-player asymmetrical game where one player plays Jack the Ripper, and another player plays the investigator. Now Jack the Ripper is trying to either escape, or they are trying to last 8 rounds without being caught, where the investigator is trying to catch them before the 8th round. Now, how this works is very clever in that there's 8 different characters, and Mr. Jack has disguised himself as one of these characters. So Mr. Jack knows who they are, but the other player doesn't. And so through the rounds, that Mr. Jack's trying to escape, and the other player's trying to go, well, which one is he? And I can go on top of him and accuse him and try to win. But the stakes are high because if you accuse and you're wrong, the game's over. The reason why this game's on this list, and it's so ridiculously high, second favorite game of all time. I've played this game over 250 times, by the way, with probably almost 200 of those being online. You used to be able to play it online a lot, but I played a lot in person. This game, and in fact, in this game was one that I actually traded away after I first played it, because this is one of those games that's not going to win you over the first time you play it, or even the second or the third. This is a game that is a slower burn that if you're willing to invest The depth and the layers of onion as you start to peel back in this game, this will reward multiple plays. You won't even start seeing things that are like super clever till after like your 10th play. And back when this came out, that was more likely to happen. But now there's so many games out there, to tell someone they're gonna have to play the game 10 times before they really start seeing a lot of the depth in the game, most people will just go, well, there's 1,000 other games out there. I'll just play something that's great the first time. But if you will be rewarded by sticking in with this game, because the amount of depth that's in this game of the bluffing, the double bluffing, the tactics here, all the different special abilities and when you use them, the informant of gaining some information about who Jack is, but you can use that to block players. The different abilities are cool. You can move ships and try to escape. You can move police barriers and block people. You can turn different things like a metro station into a park, making them not seen. It's really cool. It's almost like a hidden movement game, but it's not hidden because everything's in plain sight. It's just the person that's Jack is the one that's hidden. And it's just so clever. It's very abstract. So if you like abstract games with special abilities, this is like chess on steroids, which shouldn't be surprising because Bruno Cathala used to be a competitive chess player. And so if you're willing to get into the abstract nature of this and to learn the abilities and learn all the different tricks, I've actually created a guide to help teach other players this game because I love it so much. It's on my website if you go to GameOgeek.com and you look at Mr. Jack in that table. I've actually created a PDF where you can come up to speed really quickly. Like it no longer will take you 10 games to like see all the clever things that this game has to offer. Not to say that that's everything that's in the game. It just will help you understand it faster so you can become competitive a little bit earlier. But if you're willing to spend the time and you're willing to like see how all this works together and you're willing to just play it over and over again, I promise you it will reward you. But I realize that's not for everybody. But this game is fantastic. It's gotta be. It's my number 2, the most clever game. Oh man, it's awesome. Mr. Jack in New York. Well, here we are, folks. Number 1 game of all time. Baseball Highlights 2045. This is a card game from Mike Fitzgerald. He's the one who designed it, and it's published by Eagle Gryphon Games. I talked earlier in my last video about my top 20 Football Highlights 2045, and I love that game. This game, much like Mr. Jack in New York, the first few times I played it, I was like, it's good. I like it. And then again, after many plays, it really starts to unlock because there's a lot here. It seems simple. Play a card, I'm trying to score. Now granted, this is baseball, but it's in the future. So it's cool because you've got these cyborgs that are really good at pitching. You've got robots that are really good at hitting. You've got naturals like humans that are really good at defending. And you're just trying to score more. But the cool thing is, and I don't even like deck builders, but it's pseudo deck building where at the end of each game, you're going to take money that the people earned you. You're going to put some people out of the game for good, send them down to the minor leagues, and you're going to buy new players. And your team is going to constantly get better and better and better. And if you're playing a 2-player game, you're absolutely seeing what they buy and trying to find something to cancel it out. And it's this back and forth. If you like tactical card games, there's no better tactical card game in my opinion than this game. It is so clever. It's so balanced. It's so amazing where you play something, you play this and they play that and then you play this and you're like, you get your hand at the beginning of the turn and you're like, oh, I could do this and then combo with this and then do this. But guess what? They've got a plan too, and it might move you off your plan and you might need to get stuck and throw a guy down and pinch hit and bring somebody off the top. It might be the person that you put there at the beginning that you knew was there for this situation. Or you might once in a while get lucky and top deck a great play and the crowd goes wild. The game is fantastic. If you don't like baseball, can you still like the game? Yes, because if you like good tactical card games and you don't like baseball, you can still like this game. Because it's baseball, but you're running around and scoring. Like you can teach the basics of baseball in a little bit and you're off and running. If you do like baseball, it's just gonna make you like it more. It's my favorite because A, it's a great 2-player tactical game. B, with the expansions and even without it, every game is different because you're building your team and you can keep track of how your team was and play old teams versus new teams. Even in the standard box, you can play a 4-player tournament, which is awesome, where you are playing the other 3 players in 3 games, buying new people after every game. Then you're having a tournament. 1st seed versus 4, 2 seed versus 3, winner plays a World Series. But you have more than one box, you play a bigger tournament. 8 player, 16 player, 32 player, 64 player. You can run huge tournaments with this. It is awesome because you can do that. There's an awesome app online that you can play locally or you can play online. You can play against me. I play it all the time online. This game's fantastic. That might be a good way to see if you even like the game. Buy the $6 app and try it out. See if you like it. I've done many videos on this game. It is my favorite game. I love baseball. I love card games. I love tactical play. I love creative play. I love infinite replayability, which this game has. And I love that you can play tournaments or just mano-a-mano. Best game of all time. I can't imagine it even changing, but we'll see the next time I do this, which might be in another 7 years. We'll see. This has been a Game Boy Geek. I hope that you've really enjoyed this list. And my mantra is breaking down barriers and growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Thanks for watching, folks. If this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, I've got plenty of information about games on my YouTube channel. I've done rule schools, which help you skip the rule book and learn how to play games. I've done live playthroughs and thousands of reviews. I'd love to see you hanging around. Make some comments. Let me know what you'd like to see me cover. It's been the Game Boy Geek. We'll see you next time. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.